Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the FPL Duo. This is the transfer tips video for Game Week 21, the buy, sell, hold, and ignore series. If you are just tuning in, as always, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe if you are new to the channel. We're going to get into it. But how you doing, Jordan? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's good. Hope everyone else having a nice start of the week, and hopefully you're enjoying the football, as there is football tonight as well. Liverpool do play the replay of Wolves, so yeah, hopefully this is obviously talking about the transfer tips in this video.
Yeah, it is the transfer tips video, so let's get into it. I'm going to bring up the players that you should buy first shortly. Let me bring it up here. So yeah, let's discuss. It is Game Week 21. Obviously, Game Week 20 isn't over yet because there is a couple fixtures left tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to see how Game Week 20 goes, double Game Week 20. But we will talk about that in the team selection video on Thursday. So the first player on our list as a buy for Game Week 21 is Tony. Now, Jordan actually bought in Tony in Game Week 20, double Game Week 20, and Tony did go and score a penalty for Brentford, and straight away, Jordan, he kind of paid off, didn't it, for you? So,
yeah,
what would you say to owners that missed out on that goal against who was it against? He scored the penalty.
it was against Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, sorry. He's got Leeds next. Do you think it's too late to bring Tony in? I mean, he's got two very nice fixtures coming up in Game Week 21 and 22. Then maybe it gets a bit tougher with Arsenal, Palace, and Man United. A lot of people have Mitrovic. Maybe Mitrovic to Tony is an easy move. Darwin Núñez is still a doubt. He's not in the squad today for Liverpool. There's not many good strikers really available. And I like Tony, 13 goals, 3 assists in 17 appearances. Underlying numbers and expected goals per 90, also 0.62. His ownership is creeping up. He's 7.5 million. Do you think it's still a good time to bring Tony in as a Tony owner yourself? What's your thoughts on him? Would you be bringing him in?
Yeah, it's still time to bring Tony in. He has 2 nice fixtures before he goes against Arsenal in Game Week 23. It might have been worthwhile to bring him in against the Bournemouth one, as that looked pretty good on Game Week 20. But understandably, it was a double game week, so a lot of people might have missed out on bringing Tony in just because of the whole concentration of double game week fixture players. But yeah, it's still worthwhile bringing Tony in. He's still moderately high owned as well, so anything that Tony gets, it is going to affect your rank, partly because of his ownership is considerably high and is rising as the game week rolls forward. He did score a 9-pointer from that Bournemouth game as well, so that would have affected a lot of people's ranks from that. Nice return from Tony. Overall, though, Tony coming back from obviously his injury has done well. Normally, I wouldn't bring in a player who's just come from an injury, but as we didn't hear it wasn't as serious as first thought, I did kind of want to take a little punt and risk for going for Tony, and it has paid off. I mean, he stayed relatively fit on the pitch. It was a full 90 minutes, and yeah, he looked pretty good recovering from his leg injury. Didn't look like he was really in trouble with that at all. But yeah, he has Leeds away next in Game Week 21, which is another nice fixture for him. And Game Week 22, Southampton at home, who I think are bottom of the table and are struggling currently. And with that being a home fixture as well for Brentford, again, I can probably see Tony doing well in one or maybe both of those fixtures that he has. I understand the Arsenal might be really difficult, just because they've been really great this season so far. Then Crystal Palace at home, another great fixture for Tony, because Crystal Palace have been really bad, losing 1-0 to Chelsea previously. And then after that, he's got Man United, which is another tough fixture, but I imagine you may want to rotate Tony if you feel brave enough to and put him on the bench for another forward. But overall, I do like Tony's fixtures, even though he has 2 hard ones. I think he's definitely a buy, even if you haven't brought him in already.
Also, one thing I was going to add is Tony has been transferred in by 350,000 managers already. He is Sorry, he's currently the highest transferred in player, which is interesting, isn't it?
It is because obviously his personal reasons. He does have issues like the
Yeah.
betting things, for example.
So Dan Hilton with a comment. Thank you for the comment. Does it look likely he will get banned for the betting? How serious is that situation? I haven't read much into it. Well, I've not read too much into it either, but as far as I'm aware, he should be fine for the next few games. There's nothing really out there suggesting he will be banned or anything yet. So one thing I would do is just assume that he should be fine. And when that happens, that does happen, if he gets a ban, then you'll have to take care of it then. But I think we might be missing out on points if we just every week going to say, oh, he might get banned. Because it looks like, as far as I'm aware, nothing will happen to him now. And if anyone is out there, any Brentford fans in the chat, or if you are watching and you have a better understanding of the Tony situation with the betting, uh, situation, let us know, please, in the comments. We'll be interested to hear. But as far as I'm aware, I'll just bring him in. If you want to bring him in, I wouldn't be worried about that too much. That's my opinion on it. But yeah, Tony is the first buy. And we think he's a good pick especially for the next two. Ideally, you'd have liked to bring him in game week 20 for the penalty he had against Bournemouth, but it wasn't to be. Let's move on now to the second player on a list as a buy, and that player is the guy on the thumbnail, and that is Mitoma of Brighton. Now, I put Mitoma on this list because of how he's playing really with the eye test. Now, for anyone that didn't watch Brighton against Liverpool, Brighton were all over Liverpool, and that 3-0 scoreline may be flat as Liverpool. It could have easily been, 4-5-0, easily. Mitoma had a very, very good game. He has looked very good as well every time I've seen Brighton play. 13 appearances, 7 off the bench. But I think with De Zerbi now in charge, he's become more of the first choice. We know Leandro Trossard has fell out with De Zerbi. I wouldn't be surprised if Trossard is sold this January, or he doesn't play again as much, because something's definitely happened and De Zerbi's basically threw him under the bus. Mitoma, it looks like, is the first choice left-hand sided attacker with Solly March on the right. And Mitoma is only about 5 million. His ownership's very low as well, 1.6%. You could bring in Solly March, who did score obviously 2 goals in the weekend against Liverpool. But Solly March, it is only 0.1 million more expensive, so they're fairly similar price. You could go with either one, but I would prefer Mitoma, because I think there's more likely in the coming game weeks he's more likely to score. So his expected goals per 90 0.23, expected assists per 90 and 0.31. You take a look at his upcoming 5 fixtures. He's got Leicester away in game week 21. Bournemouth at home looks nice. Palace, I'm not sure if Palace is really a grey fixture for Brighton. It is in the FPL website, but the way Brighton are playing, you can easily see them beating Leicester and Palace and having easy games against them. Fulham as well, and then Newcastle, surprisingly, is a green. I'm not sure, but yeah, I like the look of Mitoma, definitely. I think he's one we should be looking at, potentially buying. If not him, another Brighton player like a McAllister or a Solly March. But for us, for me, Mitoma is that guy that I'm looking at bringing in. And yeah, just because the way he's playing. What's your thoughts, Jordan, on Brighton assets, especially looking at the 5 fixtures they have? Should we be looking at Brighton? Also, I've got to say, in game week 25, Brighton may have a blank. So you've got to consider that as well. They could potentially blank, but you'll have to navigate that when we get to game week 25.
Yeah, about Mitoma, this is the difficult situation because most of us have 5 midfielders, and obviously they don't really consist of Mitoma, so it's going to be really difficult if we are to buy him. Who are we going to swap him out for? Because he's going to be a very important transfer, especially for these next 3 game weeks where he's up against Leicester, Bournemouth, and Crystal Palace, who all 3 have had defensive fails throughout their matches. Like, they have been crumbling in their defence, letting in lots of goals. 2 teams, and Brighton being one of the attacking teams so far in this Premier League, which have looked dangerous at times, especially against Liverpool. You can almost see the same result coming from like Leicester, definitely Bournemouth who are struggling, and Crystal Palace who have dropped off a bit in terms of their form as well. So Mitoma can do a lot of damage in these next 3 fixtures, and he's definitely worth keeping an eye on and potentially buying for Game Week 21 against Leicester, but most definitely buying for Game Week 22 when he's against Bournemouth at home. So he is one to either watch out for or consider bringing in early to avoid the loss of points, such as Tony. But yeah, he is a rising star, Matoma. I mean, his ownership is only 1.6%. It's slowly
It's gone up a
climbing.
lot. I think it was
Yeah,
less than it was like 0.3%, wasn't it, when we last spoke about him?
yeah, and he also had a price rise the other day. He was 4.9 million. Now he's back to 5 million. So
Yeah,
there is interest in bringing Matoma in
he did.
early.
Sorry, I was saying he did pick up an assist against Liverpool as well, and he gave the back line a bit of a torrid time. So that's why, from watching him, that's why I'm more interested in bringing him in. But yeah, I think Matoma is a buy if you are looking for Brighton assets. And yeah, let us know what you guys think. Are you going to be bringing Matoma in, or if you're going to bring in other Brighton assets like a Solly March, etc. Um, let's move on to some players that we recommend you guys should be looking to sell potentially for ahead of Game Week 21. And the first one on our list is Alexander Mitrovic. So I am a Mitrovic owner myself. So let's talk about Mitrovic. So 16 appearances so far this season, 11 goals, 1 assist. So when you look at the numbers, that is still very, very good. The return per game, expected goals per 90, also very good, very high, 0.73. But you take a look at his next couple games, Tottenham at home. Okay, Tottenham haven't been great, but that should be a tough game for them. Chelsea away, will they pick it up? Chelsea obviously did win 1-0 against Palace, but they've not been great. Forest, Brighton, and then Wolves. His ownership's still fairly high, 32%, 7.2 million as well, Mitrovic. I think Mitrovic to Tony is one that you could look at if you don't have Darwin. A lot of people have obviously sold Darwin now. I don't see many strikers where you can go to, if I'm being honest. So I've put Mitrovic as a sell, but he can easily also be a hold because there's not many strikers, in my opinion, really. I mean, there's Tony around that price bracket. You could go all the way up to Harry Kane, of course, but obviously you need a lot more money to do it. So I hear the argument if you want to hold on to him, but just because of the fixtures, and I think Mitrovic owners are a bit unlucky in that last game against Newcastle, where for those that didn't watch it, go watch that penalty. I don't know if you catched it, Jordan, what he did.
Yeah, I did watch it on Twitter on the video clip. It was
Yeah, so
actually
he
quite funny.
literally kicked the ball onto his other foot, and it went in, but the double touch, that would have annoyed owners. But yeah, I think he could be a sell just because of the fixtures. Even though Tottenham and Chelsea aren't that good, I wouldn't be surprised in saying that if he did pick up something. But there's people like Tony have better fixtures, and maybe you want to change tactic in that sense and move your money elsewhere. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Mitrovic. Do you want to add anything else, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Mitrovic is considered to be a sell for these coming up game weeks because there are other forwards like Tony, for example, who have better fixtures in comparison to Mitrovic, who is against 2 of the top 5 teams, Tottenham and Chelsea.
Oh no,
And
Chelsea
then,
not right now. They're sitting in 10th, I think.
well, considerably the top 5,
Yeah.
not this current state, but as we originally knew him as top 5. But yeah, they have he has 2 difficult fixtures, and then in game
Mm,
23 it does get a bit better, then it gets a little bit worse, and then it gets better again. So Mitrovic's fixtures are a bit snakes and ladders
yeah.
throughout the next 5, and there are other options to go for, like Tony, for example. Unfortunately, Darwin Núñez is injured, otherwise he would have been maybe an option to go for. But yeah, there is limited forwards that are producing points
Mm,
at the moment. There's only really Haaland, Kane, Tony as the main ones. So at the moment, but yeah, Mitrovic is considered to be a sell. I mean, his ownership hasn't dropped very much. I mean, it is dropping, but not terribly high. I mean, it's 32% as of a few hours ago. His price hasn't moved at all, so he isn't dropping in price anytime soon. So yeah, I think a lot of people are keeping faith in Mitrovic, maybe giving him a chance against Tottenham at home before potentially
Mm.
selling him. But for this week, we've put him as a sell.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to another player that we think you should be looking at selling as well, and that is Mason Mount. Obviously, I own Mount, so I thought I'd put him on here. His ownership is 7.6%, so he's not very highly owned, but I know a lot of people did go with Mount on the wild card. So these are for people that have Mount. And I know it may not be a lot of people here, but 18 appearances, 3 goals, 2 assists. I bought Mount in on the wild card in 17. He did score in game week 17, but then he missed the double game week, obviously due to injury. And even Chelsea, that 1-0 win they had against Palace, Mount isn't really getting as many chances as we would have thought. Chelsea are a bit of a weird team. We probably didn't expect this during the World Cup break. We thought Chelsea, Liverpool would bounce back. That hasn't really been the case. Liverpool and Chelsea seem to have got worse. So, do you really need a Chelsea midfielder? I'd say no. Same with Liverpool. I don't really believe in holding Liverpool or Chelsea assets. So yeah, any Chelsea players in midfield would be a sell for me, including Havertz and such. You look at the fixtures. Okay, Liverpool might not be that tough of a game for them in game week 21. Fulham, West Ham, Southampton, Tottenham. I just think there's more options are more likely to score. Like I'd prefer to have Matoma. So if you got Mount, you can go to Matoma at 5 million and save 2.5 million on him. So for me, that makes sense to do and take Mount out. But yeah, I think this one's an easy sell if you have him. Would you agree?
Yeah, 110%. I mean, I've never been set on bringing any Chelsea players, and especially Mount, because he has never really done me well whenever I brought him in. And especially Chelsea this season have been, I don't know what they are at the moment, but there's something definitely. I mean, they are still winning games and keeping clean sheets. I'm not quite sure how by winning 1-0 against Crystal Palace in their last fixture. But that Liverpool game is not knowing what Chelsea would do or what Mount would do. And Fulham at home, same situation. In these fixtures that Chelsea have, is not knowing really how
Mm,
well players like Mason Mount will do. So I think as a midfielder slot as well, he has taken up a very valuable place, especially when we have mostly 5 midfielders that we want to have on form. And Mason Mount is just really not on form at the moment, personally.
mm,
And for his price as well, 7.5 million, I feel like that is too expensive for only a midfielder that's provided 3 goals and 2 assists. There is other midfielders that have tripled that stat easily, who are on better form at a cheaper price. He also had a price drop as well, Mason Mount. So he's back to 7.5 million, and his ownership is dropping back to, obviously he is a differential now. It wasn't a few game weeks ago, but now that he's dropped off form, he has resumed to a differential pick. But maybe that will come more better later on if Chelsea get better in the season. But for now, Mason Mount is a easy sell.
Let's move on to some players now that we think you should hold on to and give another chance to. And the first one is Martinelli. Now, surprisingly, I was looking at the FPL website and Martinelli, I'm just going to double check. Martinelli is the 5th most transferred out player this game week by 92,000 managers so far. So 92,000 people have transferred Martinelli out, which maybe comes as a surprise to some of you. It does to me a bit, if I'm honest. But we take a look at Martinelli, 18 appearances, 7 goals, 2 assists. So he has dropped off in terms of goals recently, if we're being honest. He's got a tough game against Man United at home on game week 21, then Everton after that. He does have a double in game week 23 with Brentford and City, then Villa, and then Leicester. Martinelli did blank in his last game. He's blanked quite a bit recently, I believe. But I think he's still a hold just for us. I think at that price range, he still provides, I think, decent value. He's only 6.8 million. I'm just seeing when he last scored.
I think it was before the World Cup.
Game week 18, I believe. Sorry, he did score in game week 18 in the 4-2 win against Brighton. He also scored in game week 17. So he's blanked in the last two games, and I think maybe people are a bit frustrated and are wanting to sell him. But for us, for me, I think he's still a hold if you own Martinelli. I don't own him because I own Saka. Sorry, I do own him. I own Saka and Martinelli. But yeah, for me, he's still a hold regardless of the blanks, the recent blanks. Just because of his price and the value he provides. But I understand some people want to take him out to Almiron. There's Mitoma, who we've mentioned already. Or what's your thoughts on that Martinelli, Jordan? Would you be holding him? His ownership is still 47%, but he is dropping a bit.
Yeah, I'd be scared to actually get rid of Martinelli just because of his ownership. Is almost half of FPL owners do still have Martinelli in their teams, and even if it has gone down a little bit, it's still very high and very dangerous. If Martinelli does get a return, you don't have him. It can, as almost at Trippier levels, almost affect your rank very, very badly. And I don't see why there is the need to get rid of Martinelli. I know he has had a few blanks recently, and a lot of people have said that he's not been the same since the World Cup, and maybe that's why he's a bit off form. That maybe people are considering selling him now. But I think you sort of have to hold on. I think for Martinelli because Arsenal at the moment have been relentless in terms of scoring goals, and I think because a lot of Arsenal players, there is a lot of people that are scoring like Odegaard and Saka
Hmm.
and Nketiah. There's so many goal scorers for Arsenal that any one of them could have a blank. It could have, well, obviously it's Martinelli at the moment,
Hmm.
but you never know. In the next fixture, he could do something at Man United, could do something at Everton away, and then Saka could possibly blank. It's just like roll with the
Yeah.
dice, really. It's whoever gets the chances and scores that pay off, and Martinelli eventually will get that chance.
Yeah, I think the goals are a bit spread out. You don't know. It could be Martinelli's where he gets the haul. It could be Saka. It could be Odegaard. It could be Nketiah. So they are sharing out the goals. So I would be holding and hoping the variance goes your way in the next couple of games. Moving on to the second player on the hold list, and that is Almiron, another cheap midfielder at 5.9 million now. We know Almiron's having a brilliant season as well. So far, 19 appearances, 9 goals, and the 1 assist. His fixtures don't look bad at all. Palace next, West Ham after that, Bournemouth, Liverpool, and Brighton. Um, and surprisingly, 69,000 managers have chosen to transfer out Miguel Almiron. I don't know if that comes as a surprise, but maybe to some people. But also, I don't own Almiron myself, but I think he's still a good pick and definitely a good hold. I'm just looking at why the reason could be Almiron hasn't scored since game week 17. So since coming back from the World Cup, I think he scored in game week 17. He blanked against Leeds, he blanked against Arsenal, and then he's blanked against Fulham. So that's 3 blanks in a row for Almiron. But I wouldn't know if that would put me off. I'm not sure because 9 goals is still good value if you've got him. Some people have money tied up in him. The next three still look very, very good. If I'm an Almiron owner, I'm not, and I can see him scoring a 1 or 2 in the next three. What's your thoughts on Almiron, Jordan? 3 blanks in a row. Are you worried as an owner, or do you think the next 3 fixtures you've got to give him that time? And with his record so far this season, you expect him to turn it around and get some points.
I do expect it to turn around and get some points because Crystal Palace have been terrible, especially in that Chelsea game. I mean, if Chelsea have beat Crystal Palace, then there is something really wrong with Crystal Palace. Also with West Ham, they have struggles this so far this season. They haven't scored many goals, haven't won many games. They're a bit in trouble compared to last season. Bournemouth away, again, Bournemouth have been not great, been 3-point magnets to any team that's gone against them,
Mm,
like like Brentford who won 2-0 against them last game week. Yeah, I can see a lot of returns, especially from those next three from Almiron. Very surprised if he blanks in all three of them and at least get something out of one of them. Even at Liverpool when that's red. I
yeah,
don't think that's a red. I think
yeah.
that could be a staggering result in that game, especially at home at Newcastle.
Mm,
That could easily be a grey or green fixture. I understand it'd be the Brighton one, maybe a grey and game at 25, but the next four for Aaron one are really good fixtures, and I'll be definitely holding on to him, even though he has blanked. in a couple of games. They have been really tough for Newcastle. They haven't been easy for them. They have been tested in their defence as well.
Mm.
So with these next three coming up, I think it will give them a bit more relaxation, give them more freedom from these teams who are struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, for me as a whole as well, with the next three coming up against the struggling West Ham and Bournemouth and even Palace. Let's move on to some players now we think you could ignore for Game Week 21 and beyond. And the first ignore is James Ward-Prowse. His name's so long he doesn't fit in the graphic, but it is Ward-Prowse. Um, yeah, 19 appearances so far, 6 goals and 2 assists. So he's got a few goals this season. Obviously, some free kicks. Obviously, Palace, Southampton are not playing well really this season. They're right at the bottom of the table. Um, they're not winning many games. I think they had their first win against Everton after a string of losses. Um, so Palace, sorry, no, I keep saying Palace. Southampton, they're just not playing well. And I know people still like Ward-Prowse as a pick, but I wouldn't go there. He did score a very nice goal, to be honest, against Everton. 2 very nice goals, one finish into the bottom corner, and then another lovely free kick to win them the game. But Everton are struggling, and if you look at their fixtures, Villa, another team that haven't been great but are picking up form. Brentford, we know is going to be tough for them. Wolves, another relegation, battle for them there. I just think there's other midfielders would go to, and even though he did score 2 goals in a double-digit return in Game Week 20, I wouldn't be rushing in ahead to get him in my team or anything like that. Would you agree, Jordan?
Yeah, I think most of Ward-Prowse's goals have come from free kicks as well. So not many have come from open play from him,
Mm.
and especially with Southampton being at the bottom of the table, it's not really a favourable player asset to bring in, especially for a midfielder slot. Even though he has 6 goals, which does outperform some midfielders that are more expensive. I still think with Southampton being rock bottom of the table and struggling, fighting for relegation, we're not going to see many goals coming from them. And if we are, it's not going to be considerably all coming from Ward-Prowse. I know he has 6 already, but for the fixtures coming up next, I don't see many goals coming from him unless he has a free kick, obviously, because he's a very nice free kick taker who can possibly score from those. Apart from that, though, there's not really any other reason why I would want to bring in Ward-Prowse at this
Hmm.
current moment. Unless Southampton get a double, that is only the real opportunity. I'll probably bring like a Ward-Prowse in, but with those fixtures he has, even though they're greens in some of them, Southampton haven't looked the greatest this season, and I'll be pretty put off uh, by their next fixture, especially with Aston Villa picking up new form under Emery,
Yep.
who has sort of turned it around for them. Other than that, I don't see any easy fixtures in there for Southampton where they can possibly get returns such as Ward-Prowse scoring.
Hmm. Let's move on to the final player on our list as an ignore, and that is Leon Bailey, another player coming off the back of a double-digit return. I think Bailey got a goal and an assist in his last game in the win against Leeds. He scored against Leeds. That is 4 goals and 2 assists for him so far this season. Um, I remember Bailey was pretty template at the start of the season. For those that don't remember, I remember wanting to choose between Bailey and I can't remember who the other player was. A lot of teams had Bailey in because of his price. He was cheap, 4.5 million, and he was a bit of a troll at the start of the season. Um, he did get a goal and an assist, as I said, against Leeds, but I would still be ignoring Bailey personally. Southampton away could be a good fixture for him, but then after that, even Leicester could be okay. But Man City on the horizon, Arsenal as well. I think there's just more. I still probably prefer Andreas, maybe. Um, but yeah, for now, I think Bailey is an ignore for us. Um, I'm trying to see how many managers have transferred him in. But yeah, for me, I think is an ignore. So 20,000 of you have transferred in Bailey so far, and he did play 90 minutes. It looks like Emery does prefer playing him now. With Gerrard, he was a bit in and out. Maybe he becomes a good option if you think if you're a Villa fan, you're bullish on Villa. maybe. But for us, I think he's an ignore for now, and maybe wait and see how he does before we jump on him and look to bring him in. So that's my thoughts on him. What do you take on it? Would you just be waiting out, maybe give him a few more games before we rush in to buy him?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be not in the rush to bring in Bailey. I mean, I thought about bringing Bailey in when the game week comes where most teams will blank, and
Mm,
then obviously Aston Villa do play in that blank game week. That is possibly when I could potentially bring Bailey in myself.
yeah,
But for now, he's a complete ignore for me personally. Especially again, he's a midfielder who's only scored 4 goals and 2 assists, and one of them coming from that Leeds game. It's still early days, I think, to bring Bailey in. I think it's a wait and see.
yeah,
But it is looking good for him so far, especially under Emery. I mean, now that he's actually starting, considering when we brought him in underneath Gerrard, and he
yeah,
would be benched one game or been taken off early in the game, which was quite annoying, I imagine, for many Bailey owners. But yeah, I think he's a wait and see. I think in the long term run, but
mm,
for now, I think Bailey is an ignore.
yeah. I agree with that. Bailey's an ignore for both of us. I just want to say there is a few of you in here. If you are enjoying the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video, and as always, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Really appreciate your support. So all likes and shares are appreciated. So share the video as well if you can. We're going to take a few questions and then we're going to wrap it up because Liverpool do kick off in just under 15 minutes. So we're going to go watch that game. Um, Dan Hilton says Mitoma or Almiron. For me right now, I don't know. I'd still probably prefer Almiron just because the next three. Sorry, Almiron still has some nice fixtures, but I do like Mitoma, as I said, for a couple of weeks now. It's hard to pick. If you've got Almiron, I'd keep Almiron. If you've not got either, I'd probably be tempted to go with Mitoma just to be different. Um, El Padrino in the chat. Big up, fellas. Big up, El Padrino. Philip, I got Mitoma for 4.9 last game week. Uh,
Nice.
Kawanda says, good evening, lads. I will rather hold Martinelli, but we'll add Odegaard also. Shrey's also in the chat. Gunter, F. Bailey, I just think for 2 games, short time, but it's risky. Yeah, it is a bit risky, but you could, if you have faith in him against Southampton, Leicester, um, you never know. Um, Thomas with a comment as well. Do you think Forest will stay up? Just looking at the table, Forest are 13th right now with 20 points. Yeah, why not? I
Yeah,
think they could. So yeah, why not?
I think they can hang on. Forest, they do look the better team going
Mm.
forward, apart from Fulham as a newly promoted team.
Also, Jordan, should you get Kane in? Says Nanjay.
It's a good question because I thought about bringing Kane in, especially with my next move coming into the next game week. He is on the horizon. I'm just waiting for his fixtures to get a little bit more better, obviously, because they are tough at the
Mm.
moment. But yeah, I think bringing Kane is not a bad idea. I mean, we have a lot of money, especially when we've sold most of our premiums. Like, I think the only premium we have left is really Haaland now,
Yeah.
and maybe one other. So it shouldn't be an issue getting Kane in. And
Mm.
considering he's the second most earned asset in the FPL behind Haaland,
I didn't know that.
uh, yeah, well in terms of forwards, he's got the
Mm.
second most amount of points.
Okay.
So he is worth bringing in, I think, Kane still, even though Tottenham have been pretty bad.
He's got Fulham next in 21. Then he's got City in 22. Then Leicester, West Ham, Chelsea, Wolves. I think he's a good pick still. So yeah, why not? I think it's the last question, maybe. Spaghetti and beans. I've seen many very well known and experienced players with fairly poor ranks. What do you think the reason for this is compared with other seasons, especially as the season is over halfway through? Good question. Even me, if you look at my rank, it's probably the worst start I've had to an FPL season. I think a lot of that is to do with maybe players that we didn't expect to do well have just exploded. If you look at, I'm going to go on the FPL website and I'm going to look at who scored the most points so far. So if I go to statistics, total points, Haaland has scored the most points so far in this season, which is 146. Second, if you didn't tell anyone at the start of the season who would be second, it's actually Kieran Trippier. So
Oh,
Kieran Trippier has scored the second most points out of any player in the game. And at the start of the season, maybe that was a surprise because a lot of us didn't even have Trippier in our team. We had Trent, we had Cancelo, we had Reece James. A lot of us had Robertson. So I think maybe that has played a part as well. And I look at the rest of Odegaard is in there, top fourth highest scorer, point scorer so far. Kane's third, which maybe was predictable, but Tony fifth for points scored so far. Almiron is sixth. So there's a lot of new players really that have broken in, and you look at Salah, who obviously I had and I backed very, very much in the first 16 game weeks. Salah's only scored 100 points so far, and you compare that to Almiron, who's half the price, less than half the price, 109 points from Almiron. So I think for me that has played a bit of a part where some of the more players we didn't expect from Newcastle, from Brentford, Brighton, etc., doing really well. Have you got any other take on it, Jordan, or do you know what's your thoughts on it?
yeah, I think the season has been very different and weird compared to the normal seasons we do have, where Man City are doing really well. I mean, they are doing really well, but I mean, really well in terms of clean sheets, and the players like Cancelo and whatnot doing well. Because of Liverpool being not that great and having problems, that has vastly affected, especially at the start of the season when we had these players, as mentioned. And
Mhm.
with only really Arsenal and Man United and Man City being the top teams that
Mm,
that are currently at the top. I mean, Man United, we never thought we would have Man United assets in our team, but now most of us have three Man United assets. I have three Man United players. I never thought at this moment
yeah,
in time, when the start of the season, I would have three Man United players in my team just because of their form. So
yeah, last season.
yeah, this season has changed drastically in terms of form for teams bottom, top, like
Yeah.
Newcastle, for example, and the dangerous threat of relegation turned it on the heads when Eddie Howe came in, and now they're the top five. So it is a roller coaster at the moment, I think.
I'll take this last question, then we're going to wrap it up because we are getting close to the Liverpool game kicking off. H1 said thoughts on March. Got some good fixtures. Yeah, we've spoke about March. Good pick. I think I'd prefer Mitoma over him, but I think he's still a good solid pick. Let's wrap it up, Jordan. That's been the FPL transfer tips video. Just a quick recap for those that missed it. So Tony and Mitoma are the buys. Mitrovic and Mount are the sells. Martinelli and Almiron are holds. And Ward-Prowse and Bailey are the ignores. So that is it for the transfer tips for Game Week 21. Let us know your comments and your thoughts in the comments below. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a like on the stream, on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we will see you guys on Thursday, 7 p.m. as always, for the team selection video. So make sure you are tuned in for that. But without further ado, that is it from us today. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for everyone for joining, and see you guys shortly. Anything else you'd like to add, Jordan?
Just thank you everyone for your questions and obviously for watching the stream. Hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed the Liverpool replay match against Wolves. That would be very exciting. So hopefully you enjoy that, and yeah, we'll see you Thursday for the team selection.